Hello and welcome to another Crusader Kings 3 developer diary. This is the 11th one, and we're talking about Seduction, Torture, and the Intrigue perk trees. What a title, eh? What an absolute title that is. Anyway, how about we just get into it? Lovely. So we can now see that, well, this is obviously Seduction. I doubt this one is Seduction. Torture, Intrigue. Alright, so we finally learned what those particular icons were. Fair enough. Welcome and welcome back to all. This week I'm here to tell you more about Intrigue. It's not just an act, it's a lifestyle. As covered in a previous dev diary, each character skill has a lifestyle, and each lifestyle has three focuses and 3 perk trees, which is what we'll be diving into today. Keep in mind that all values listed below are subject to change. For Intrigue, the 3 focuses are Skullduggery, Temptation, and Intimidation. So we get Agent Acceptance and some Intrigue. We get Fertility, Attraction Opinion, and Seduction Scheme Power. And then for Intimidation we get Intrigue and Dread Gain. And then Natural Dread plus 20. Very nice. Also, I could have showed you from here as well, but anyway. Each perk tree, Schemer, Seducer, and Torturer, concludes with the unlocking of its namesake trait. I know this might be an insurmountable challenge, but feel free to guess which one is which. Well, yeah. Is there any greater torture than the desires of the heart? Man's got a point. Although, I mean, if I had thorns sticking into my heart, probably that would be quite torturous, but alas. I'll also be running down the effects of every unlockable perk that leads to those, and I'm naturally going to start by talking about the Temptation focus, that Eternal Vice, and the Seducer tree. But first I want to describe its closely related Seduce scheme. The Seduction scheme, it's a little more complicated than it was in CK2, good, with factors such as the target's personal preferences playing the larger part. Indeed, scheme power is not merely affected by your intrigue, but who you are and who they are. This also means that you have to be a little bit careful. If your target gets annoyed rather than enticed, and you suffer a critical failure, they may give you a hard rejection, preventing you from attempting to seduce them again, or even publicly outing you as a lecherous villain. Alright, so let's see, this one has been exposed. As I made my climb up to Duchess Matilda's window, her shocked scream was not the welcome I had in mind. I had no time to stop her before she runs for the door and flings it open. Help, guards, there is an intruder in my chambers. Before this night gets any worse, I crawl back the way I came. It would be quite funny if one of the other options for what would happen in that situation is she pushes him off the balcony. Like, you're intruding into her bedchambers and she just pushes you right back out. And, yeah, that wouldn't go so well. May have misjudged her eagerness. No shit. What? The thing is, now all I can think of is the fact that these are going to be animated. We learned that in the Q&A that I did a video on yesterday, link in the description. All these portraits, these reactions, these event things, these are going to be somewhat animated, which I guess sort of explains why CK3's been in development for so long. It started development before Imperator did, after all. There's a lot of animations to do for all the different reactions to, you know, what is happening. So this is actually going to be animated, I think. I hope not, but I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So how will the Seduce tree help you? A few perks offer straightforward bonuses by increasing your scheme power or making you more attractive to those of an appropriate gender and sexuality. So it's not just the opposite one, it's the appropriate one. Seduction scheme power plus 30%. We've got Smooth Operator. Smooth Operator. Plus 25% to your success chance. Then Home Advantage, Seduction scheme success chance against own courtiers and guests. Others may expand your pool of available targets, so removes the incestuous penalty from your seduction schemes. Naturally. Wincest. Just to be clear, this affects the scheme, not the relationship. If you're caught getting too close to family, you will still suffer consequences. Similarly, if you find your own sexual preferences getting in the way of who you can seduce efficiently, there are ways you can overcome that. Unshackled Lust. Nice. Nice. There's no way of overcoming your target's sexual preferences, though. I'm sorry, but your liege is just not that into you. Fair enough. There are perks to help a different kind of effectiveness in your seduce schemes. So plus 30% to your fertility. That would be good if you want, like, families and stuff. Naturally. And perks to mitigate the consequences of messing up. No longer critically fail. That seems a bit overpowered. And critical failure is a whole part of it. That's kind of like up here, this is a critical failure, right? That just removes a whole part of the whole process. I'm not sure I am entirely in favor of that being a thing. The number of times I've desperately needed the graceful recovery perk. Bringing a lover to your court doesn't come entirely risk-free, of course, so we have added a perk to minimize the risk to you at the unfortunate cost of maximizing the risk for them. Your lovers are less likely to join murder schemes against you. Lovers are more likely to save you in the case of attempted murders. That's pretty cool. Oh, lovers are more likely to save you in the case of attempted murders. Maximizing the risk for them. They're going to jump in front of that knife then, aren't they? What can I say? Not every love story has a happy ending. The final perk in the tree is the one that grants you the Seducer trait. It comes with increased fertility and intrigue, and a hefty boost to attraction opinion for anyone who finds themselves unfortunate enough to be of the relevant sexual orientation. Rulers of the world, lock up your wives and husbands and family members, maybe also yourself for good measure. So now we're on to torture. Of course, Intrigue does not merely embody pleasure, but also pain. I'm happy to announce that the fan favourite of torture is going to be making a return for CK3. What is it good for? Well, being dreadful, for one thing, making your vassals fear you. Another benefit is the possibility that a victim will try and bribe you with secrets to get you to stop. That's pretty much what torture's for, yeah. You're going to need those secrets for leverage anyways, since the victim's family will hold you in utter disdain. Being an avid torturer also comes with a piety penalty and a loss of clergy opinion, unless your faith happens to make exceptions for this kind of thing. Pretty sure the church was also in on the whole torturer thing, like a lot, so not sure I agree with loss of clergy opinion, to be honest. So, torture might discover a secret if Count Elec has or knows about one. Lose 10 stress because you're sadistic, gain 20 dread, pay 100, I guess that's piety. Lose 75 opinion of you for 50 years, tortured me. Only 75, eh? Crime is rightful imprisonment, and he's recently tortured for 1 year. So, the Torturer tree. Now, we wouldn't let you take the pliers to flesh without giving you a way of getting really good at it now, would we? The Torturer tree is all about making your vassals and peasants fear whatever might be going on in your dungeons, or your throne room, or in your presence in general. It is a series of dread-increasing effects, as well as adding bonuses to various sources of dread. So we get some dread gain plus 30%. You don't lose piety or clergy opinion from torturing or executing others. Okay, fair enough. And then imprison chance plus 50%. That's going to be very useful, I think, if you want to go and be a torturer. And then forever infamous is dread decay negative 100%. So you're never going to lose your dread. Fair enough. Of course, once you start going off the rails, as my fellow developers assure me my playstyle should be described as, you need to make sure it doesn't go unnoticed. Keep the faint of heart in line and all that. Of course. So, dread gain per tyranny plus 0.5. Tyranny. I'm not sure I have... Oh, no, yeah, no, I do. That's also in CK2. I just completely blanked on it. It's not all about dread, however. Intimate familiarity with human anatomy can help in other ways, too. So, 50% chance to gain either 1 intrigue or 1 prowess. Oh, that's per torturing. Okay, so you take dark insights and then you just torture everybody. You're going to be incredibly intriguing. And your prowess is just going to be off the charts. While it's not a stress relief per se, unless you're particularly sadistic, the perk tree offers additional side benefits for your poor coping methods. Martial per stress level, intrigue per stress level, and prowess per stress level. Nice. So a lunatic is going to be, with this, is going to be incredibly martially intriguing and prowessic. Is that a word? It is now. Dread and the actions that give it is quite powerful on its own, offering alternative ways of controlling your vassals. But what if we could make it even better? So fear tax gives you plus taxes from all of these people. Various things. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Can't be denied. The last perk tree grants the Torturer trait, which offers slight levy and prowess boost, along with an additional improvement to your dread gain. This will allow you to keep your dread exceptionally high as you imprison, revoke, torture, and execute to your heart's content. So now we're on to the Schemer tree. Some of you out there are less bombastic in your methods, which brings us to our last tree of this diary. Skullduggery rules the shadows, keeping potential threats in line by more subtle tricks. It provides a number of different bonuses for your hostile schemes and to your spymaster's tasks. So we have some murder scheme power, hostile scheme success chance plus 25, and hostile schemes do not mean schemes hostile against yourself. Right, fair enough. But rather schemes that are categorized as hostile instead of personal. Okay. Good. I actually did read it as hostile against yourself before I got to this part. And then progress speed plus 25% for finding secrets. Find secrets is the Spymaster Council task you might remember from a few diaries ago. There are also a handful of defensive measures should your enemies come looking for revenge. So disrupting scheme effectiveness. It's a very useful Spymaster task, naturally. Enemy hostile scheme success chance -25. Enemy hostile scheme success chance against your courtiers -10. Very nice. I quite like this perk tree. This one's pretty good. Once you've unlocked this collection of perks, it'll be very hard to turn your own methods against you. You'll only really have to worry about people who are your equal as a schemer, but you shouldn't be worrying about those people anyway. In the previous dev diary about schemes, you already got a sneak preview of a scheme to fabricate hooks, which becomes available in the Schemer tree, and is not the only scheme to be unlocked this way. Find secrets may also fabricate hooks. Very nice. Very nice. And then we can also abduct people. Very, very good. Abduction is a criminal scheme and therefore secret. However, if you succeed, you're automatically discovered. They're not going to wonder for long whose dungeon they're locked in. You have nothing to worry about, though. The victim will be entirely at your mercy after all. But with all these schemes and only a single hostile scheme slot, what is a poor little power behind the throne to do? Why, you get yourself a second scheme slot, of course. That's really good. That's really good. Having basically two things you can do at once. That's very nice. Although, going back a bit, if you succeed, you'll be automatically discovered. If this is automatically discovered by the person you are abducting, fine. If this is everybody knows you abducted this person, then I think this might be a bit of a justifying how the game works, like trying to pass off a failure in how the game works as intentional, if that makes sense. Because if you succeed, you'll be automatically discovered. You wear a hood where you go and talk to them, or you never talk to them directly. You send your courtiers or your scheme assistant to go and talk to the people you've abducted. You never need to see them. But I think, you know, being automatically discovered is maybe possibly just a failure of how the game works, and it wouldn't be able to accurately depict like what it would be like to be abducted secretly. Always have a hood over their head. Like, that's... I'm worried about this particular one, at least. Alright, twice schemed, max hostile schemes +1. So, lastly, this perk tree offers up the Schemer trait. Not only does it grant a major bonus to your intrigue in general, it also significantly boosts your scheme power, speeding up the inevitable success of your ingenious plans. And with that, we conclude this week's Dev Diary. I hope you're already daydreaming about all the ways you can grasp for power and how to hold on to it once you've got it. Next week, we'll be diving into the perk trees for the stewardship lifestyles. So, adieu until then. Just remember to watch your back. Alright, so thoughts so far. I quite like the Schemer one. Torturer seems fun, and I've never really been one to do the Seduction in CK2, but of course I'll definitely give it a try. Pretty chunky dev diary, although quite a lot of it is taken up by very small images, so maybe it's just feeling a bit longer than it actually is. But anyway, let us go into the forums and we can have a look at seeing what the devs have been saying. And there's a lot of it, actually. There is a chunky amount of additional dev comments. So, I do worry that some of these may feel a little odd. I wonder what the justification might be, for instance, for divine retribution. Suddenly the clergy doesn't care about your dreadful acts? No, they wouldn't anyway, because they're the fucking clergy. Better PR game, something else. Your actions may be extreme, but the priests all agree that you have gods on your side. See, the way I think of it is, the church, historically, tortured the shit out of many, many people. The Inquisition was sanctioned. The, dipping witches in rivers was sanctioned. All of these things were sanctioned. This is torture. This is entirely normal. The church didn't give a fuck. And in many cases instigated it themselves, so yeah, whatever. Anyway, very interesting. Roughly how long does it take to fill up one perk tree? About 30 years, if I remember correctly. Depends on a few things, particularly whether your lifestyle matches your education. But a long-lived character will typically be able to fill out 2 and 3 trees. That might change for release, of course, but it's what we have right now. Yeah, so about 30 years for one, 25, 30 years for one is what we were told at PDXCon. How does Dread interact with opinion? Presumably, if you are a torturer, your vassals will hate you, but be too scared to do anything about it. And then what does Dread do? Increase taxes and levies in general, or just amongst cowed, intimidated vassals? Dread does a lot of things, so look forward to the dev diary on that in the future. Well, that's a bit of a cop-out. Does this mean you can choose to seduce someone, even if your character's sexual orientation doesn't match their gender? Yes. Without the perk, you'll have some significant penalties, but the perk removes those. Okay. So, for you to successfully incest, goddamn, does your partner need to have the Seduction incest perk as well? No. This one's more one-sided, so you'll get the benefits from only having it yourself. Benefits. Benefits. Just want to point out, he said benefits. Do I really have to take the incest trait with every character who wants to finish the seducer tree? I'm assuming you mean perk rather than trait, and while it's part of the completed tree, no one will force your hand after that. So you can take the perk, but you never need to dabble in your own blood. Yeah, that's how we're going to talk about that. Will there also be ways to increase my stats beside torture? In CK2, opportunities to permanently increase your stats were really powerful, so this seems a little too strong at first glance. There will exist other ways as well, but the goal is to make sure that no way is excessively powerful. Well, if you torture everybody, you're gonna be able to get some significant amount of intrigue. One last hope. I hope there will be more events than the staple ones in CK2, which become rather stale after you've done them. Build the observatory, would you shut up about your pigs, I'll meet her by the river, the white stag, etc. We know them already. There'll be quite a few lifestyle events with widely varying themes and sizes. Have a look at last week's dev diary for a little more info. Rest assured we put a lot of work into them. I mean, you're saying, I hope there'll be more events. Like, that's kind of a given, I think, at this point. Yeah, of course there'll be more events. And of course, if people play the game for as long as they've played CK2, like, the average hours on CK2 is huge. Compared to your average game, Paradox games have more average hours. I'm going to just put that out there. Civ would also be up there with more average hours. Sims, probably. Minecraft, that kind of thing. Like, they have the average hours that people put into these games is significant. So people will run out of new events and they will be going over just the same old events, no matter how many you put in the game. So yeah, put more in the game, but you're gonna have this again. When CK4 comes out, this exact comment will be written again. Just to clarify, does this mean that, for example, a homosexual woman can seduce a straight man, but the reverse wouldn't work? If so, does the AI still prefer to seduce based on their preferences? So yes, you can act against your own sexual orientation, but you cannot make others do the same. Like, I don't know why people keep asking this, it was fairly freaking clear. Anyway. The AI behavior when it comes to CK2 Seduction Intrigue was rather spammy at times. Has it been something to keep the AI from pretty much always trying to seduce and scheme against someone if they've got the ability to do so, other than having to consider whether they want that scheme or unrelated scheme? So yes, the AI is better. Has been something done to make characters that probably would be quite hard to seduce much less receptive? For example, lustful and in love with their spouse and disliking you equals probably not happening, and chaste being very hard to overcome? Yes. Relating to the above, has something been done to increase the importance of a comparative rank? Counts seducing random princesses or the spouses of close relatives of kings and emperors was rather common in CK2, for example, which always seemed rather strange. In the opposite case, kings and emperors not being a bit more favourable towards the seducer than same rank seduction was also a bit odd. Yes, ranks now matter. Related to this guy's asking a lot of questions. Related to the above, what penalties are there if you get caught seducing? Example, the heir's apparent wife. I believe that that case didn't let the current ruler take any action in CK2, which was a bit odd. There will be consequences. Exactly what kind depend on how your faith views adulterous behaviour. So keep your eyes open for a future dev diary on religions. He's put that every time he's talking about future dev diary, he puts a wink there. Yeah. Could you go into a bit more depth as to how one would seduce their spouse? Flowers, chocolates. Right. Wow. Have you tried buying them flowers occasionally? Cliched, I know, but something a lot of people actually enjoy. It's about showing that you care and think about them as much as you did when you first got married. Maybe go on a date somewhere slightly unusual for the two of you and experience some new things together. And of course, showing them that you're putting in some effort to look good and be desirable for them, even after such a long time together, is sure to be appreciated. Nice. He's nice. Good. When a character is tortured, do they get released from prison or do they stay in prison so we can torture them indefinitely? Ramsay Bolton style. They stick around, or at least as things stand right now. I don't even want to know why that's important to you. Well, because it was stupid that they would be released. Just like for when you played as the Byzantines. Like, I could blind this person, or I could keep him in my prison. If I blind him, it's an automatic release order, which is stupid and totally unrealistic. Like, I want to blind him and keep him in my prison. I want him to never have children, and I want to keep him in prison. The fact that you can do both was, like, kind of stupid. I used mods to fix that particular issue. Can you start more than one lifestyle tree from a specific category? Like, could I start... How many times have we gone over this? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Whatever, I'm not going to even finish your bloody comment. Will there be any way for schemers to sabotage relations between two other people? Could we have a scheme that does this? There's a fair bit of content dealing with rivals, but we don't have plans for a dedicated scheme to do what you describe. I do quite like that idea, though. We've discussed ideas like that, but other schemes have been prioritized over it. Yeah, something like trying to drive a wedge between a king and queen. Like, make them hate each other, try and kill each other. Like, that would be fucking awesome. I'm just imagining some of the events that could come out of that. Very nice. I hope that goes in at some point. Could we get a skill point for seducing partners of the same or other, if already homosexual gender? If you get incestuous, there should also be an option to seduce people even of the same gender. What the fuck has incestuous got to do with... what? Read the fucking dev diary. I might be misinterpreting, but it seems that the stress loss is for sadistic torture, as poor synergy with the stress-related bonuses from thriving in chaos. There'll thankfully be plenty of opportunities to get yourself stressed, so keep an eye out for future dev diary on the subject. No wink! Haha! Also, this might have been mentioned somewhere, but what exactly is prowess? How good a character is at fighting. So that's basically your fighting skill from CK2. It's too linear and some perks obviously better than others. I can already see some perks that are worth picking no matter what character I play. Once you get to see more of the perk trees, I think you'll discover a lot of perks that are worth picking no matter what, which means you'll have to choose after all. Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. The ones that I've seen, I'm like, oh, I want that, and then, oh, I want that. And if you get enough, oh, I want that, then it's... none of them are eventually going to be must-haves, because there's too many must-haves, and you're never going to get them all, so... Is this Matilda de Canossa, Duchess of Tuscany? A gentleman never gets kicked out of someone's bedchambers and tells. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's bloody... what's-her-face? Oh, yeah, no, it might be. But you can see that they're over Somerset, so maybe it is. Maybe it is. Which one of the 3 Intrigue perks is your current favourite? Might actually be Schema. Being able to murder and abduct 2 different people at the same time is a precious ability. All of them have perks I really want, though. Would it be better to have the probability reduced rather than eliminating it entirely? I agree with that. That's what I was talking about before. I feel it makes no sense to have a magic guarantee that things will never go south. Yeah, 100% on a Mindle's side here. Great stuff. Things can still go poorly, just a little less poorly than they otherwise might have. I can see it as someone being well versed enough in social manipulation that even if something would normally have slammed the door in your face, you got a boot in the doorstep to keep it from shutting completely. Yeah. And I also want to see that toe that you're putting in the doorway get chopped off. Like, sometimes shit goes south no matter how good you are at social manipulation. With that said, I'm looking forward to being able to play as a despised, scheming vassal, terrorizing everyone until I claim the throne and then spend my days torturing my new subjects openly instead of stalking them from the shadows. Now there's someone who enjoys the finer things in life, naturally. As I said, there's a lot. So, 2 more comments left. Can we seduce the seducer? Can this be a form of critical failure during a seduction attempt? Maybe with an associated perk in the seducer skill tree. Well, it's really a question of who's truly seducing who, isn't it? Are we finally going to see religion mechanics that allow us to build a religion that can favor intrigue? No comment. Wait for the religion dev diary. Are characters now able to obtain multiple lifestyle traits? Yes. Has been said multiple times. Please read Dev Diary. If you torture a character with no secrets for too long, will he drop false secrets just to save himself? Oh, I want that. That'd be fucking cool. Not for now, at least, unfortunately. Yeah, it is unfortunate. The way the secrets currently works means that it's actually more work to set up false secrets than real ones, and there's no good way for a player to evaluate which may be real and which may be false, except for where you got them from. It's a cool idea we've even talked about internally in the past, but we've prioritized adding in more real secrets. In the future, this needs to be a thing, because that's fucking cool, and super, like, accurate. If you torture someone, they're going to give you false information just to make you to stop. Like, they'll give you what you want to hear, or what they think you want to hear. Doesn't matter if it's true or not, they just want the pain to stop. Trust me, I know these things. Right, so, I meant in-game. No shit, you meant he's talking about the seduction of the wife. But I guess the guy didn't reply to him, so maybe he needed to bug him. Oh, silly me. It will never be adulterous or illegal to seduce your spouse. Of course, and you won't critically fail, but apart from that, it works similarly to a regular seduction, with some slight bonuses. The events you get are a little more selective too, since certain things wouldn't make sense. Climbing the balcony to their chambers, for example. I don't know, I think that would make pretty good sense. That'd be pretty, you know, if the wife likes that you're like a daring, like acrobatic kind of guy, I'm just going to climb up to your balcony. We're going to role play as me seducing you. There we go. Have you considered something to make intrigue be used in warfare? Stuff like propaganda and spreading disinformation would obviously be very useful in times of war. We've thought about this at times, although it's not here in these perk trees, but we try to focus on how skills in other areas can be used cross-disciplinarily, to put it in that way. It's also important to us to make sure that the key skill is always the most important one for a thing. For example, diplomacy might be helpful in certain schemes, but it shouldn't be more useful than intrigue is. Fair enough. Alright, last one. That makes a wasted perk if you aren't into incest. Yeah, probably. I don't think it's good design to force the player to pick things that actually have no use. Things don't have to be perfectly balanced, but they should have some use. And aside from an RP perspective, some players may view perk picks as the thing the character is actually interested in, rather than abstract options. Alright, fair criticism on both counts. We've been looking closely at adding something extra to it, since incestuous seductions are typically only useful in very specific situations. Do you role players out there think having an additional effective would alleviate the sense of taking the perk expresses a character specifically interested in incest? I do a fair bit of RPing myself, but have never considered this much of an issue. Alright. If I remember correctly, with secret system, the homosexual trait can be present on a character, but secret. So is it worth hitting on your liege anyway, you know, maybe after a few beers, just in case? Or do you have to discover the secret before it'll work? The secret comes from the actions you take, so it actually goes the other way around. So you might be able to discover that the guy's homosexual by okay, interesting. So just try and seduce everyone, and maybe you'll turn people secretly homosexual. because that's totally how it fucking works. What if climbing the balcony to their chambers is precisely how you show you care? A nostalgic reenactment of how you first met your spouse. As you said above, you need to show them you still care. You know, this conversation is giving me ideas. Good. Good, it should do. Anyway, that is that for this dev... Oops. That's that for this dev diary. I hope you have enjoyed. I hope you found some of these things interesting and useful and, you know, more information. And are you going to be a lecherous, torturous schemer? Is that the kind of playstyle you like to do? Is incest actually wincest? Yeah. Let me know what your favorite perk is. Let me know what your thoughts are of the dev diary in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye for now.